Seasonal gruntings, folks. As you can tell, it's almost Christmas. It's actually the Sunday before Christmas, which this year is the winter solstice and is our shortest day here in the UK. What that means is that the dark evenings and dark mornings will start to fade away. Now that's going to mean that we can get back out a little bit more with the camera. However, it also brings with it cold weather, wet weather, possibly snow, which make it more difficult to get out. So what do you do when you can't get out and enjoy your nature photography and your wildlife photography? You do something indoors. Now what I do indoors, photography wise, is macro photography. Year or two ago, I got asked to go to the Walsall Photographic Society and take some animals along for them to do some animal and macro photography. So I took a couple of things along, particularly small things, and I'll put some pictures into the video to show some of the stuff that I did picture wise there. Since then, I've done a few other camera clubs with macro, and over that time I've developed lots of new tips and tricks and ideas and things that you can do. So let's talk about macro. That's what this video is about. It's an indoor video. I'm currently sitting in my living room. Cat's asleep on her post over there. Tree's up, and as you'll see, just in the corner over there is one of my prints on the wall. It's one of my favourite photos. That I took that whilst waiting for a barn owl to appear, and it's a backlit photo of a bird of some sort. I believe it's possibly a blue tit, but there's absolutely no definition in the bird whatsoever because it was backlit. I'll put the picture in for you to see. I love it. It's an absolutely stunning picture. Tell me what you think. As I say, it was a pure chance shot. Anyway, back to the macro. So, what do you need to do macro? Firstly, you need your camera body. Now I haven't bought mine in here because it's still attached to my 150-500 lens, so didn't want to mess around and bring that in. Secondly, you need a lens capable of close-up, and preferably a macro lens, which is a 1:1 ratio. Now for this, I use this one. Let's take the lens hood off that so that we don't need that. Generally, when you're using macro, when you're doing macro, there are different sectors, I guess, even within the macro area itself. So one of those areas is animal photography, where you're doing things like small insects, and in my case I use things like jumping spiders and praying mantis, and also scorpions. And then if you're out in the wild, as it were, if you're out in your local park, you can do macro photos of fungus and mushrooms. This time of year, actually a little bit earlier on in the year, was brilliant. I got some cracking mushroom photos. Again, I'll chuck some of those in here as well. I love the bracket fungi that you see on the trees as well. And all of that kind of thing you can do as a macro shot using this particular type of lens. This one is a Sigma. It's a Sigma 105. It's a 1 to 2.8, so that's sorry, an f2.8. That means that the aperture on here, the widest it goes is to 2.8. That would dictate the depth of field that you'll get in your shot. If you don't know about aperture and things like that and the depth of field and all of that kind of stuff, don't worry about it for now, and maybe I'll do another video later on to give you some more details on that. On the side of this lens, we've got 3 switches. The upper switch is a zoom lock or a focus lock. This can be focused at full focus, which is the 105mm. It can be focused at 0.45 meters to infinity, or 0.312 to 0.45 meters. So that's basically a foot to 18 inches. What that does, if you use it as an autofocus, that will mean that it'll only focus on that smaller distance, and that will give you quicker focus. Now, generally with macro, I tend to go into manual focus, which is the second switch down here. You've got an AF and an M. So I'll normally switch that over to the M. In fact, it's already there, so I can't slide it over. Again, it does depend on what your subject is. If your subject is wildlife or an animal, like say a spider or something like that, if it's going to be fast moving, then autofocus is possibly a way to go. And I do quite often use the auto to start with, and then switch it into manual and use the camera moving forwards and backwards just to get the focus on the particular part of the subject. So generally manual focus is the way to go. And then the bottom is optical stabilization, which is the inbuilt stabilization in the lens. That gives you a little bit of extra stability for any vibration, any movement, so vibration from your shutter, any movement from you when you take the shot. So that can also help with that and stop you getting a bit of motion blur. If there's a concern with things like motion blur, and if you're in a position to do it, then using a tripod is your best way to get around that. You can also get things like macro rails, which will allow you to move your camera forwards and backwards with more stability on a tripod as well. So that's your lens. As I say, that's a 105mm lens, and I find that one to be particularly a sharp type as well. The Sigma lenses are really, really good. Depending on what you're shooting, as I say, we've got a lens hood there. If you're shooting out in the park, for example, you may want to use that for a little bit of shading, so you're not getting any light coming in. But typically when I'm shooting insects, or potentially the next subject or the next thing I'm going to talk about is shooting things like flowers, then I probably wouldn't use that because it gets in the way. You know, you can get your front edge of your lens element closer and closer without that there. So as much as it sits on my lens whilst it's in storage, when I'm using it, it tends to come off and sit on the side somewhere. Now, talking of getting closer, we've got these, which are extension tubes. Now, as you can see from the fact I can't work out how to use them, I never use them really, but what they are, it's a hollow tube. This gives you extra reach on your lens. It doesn't give you any extended focal distance. It just moves your lens closer to the subject. So as I mentioned earlier, you could use a macro rail, These are almost a cheaper alternative. These are fully autofocus connected as well. So once these are on your camera, this particular type at least will work with the autofocus system that I've got. You get them generally in a bunch of 3. So you've got 3 sizes. This first one is 12mm. That one's 20. And then the big one is 36mm. So you can use a combination of those. You can use the one on its own, or you can use all 3 together. They just lock onto the front of your camera where your lens would go, and then your lens goes into there. So let's pop these back together and move those out the way. There's something which is useful to get you in that little bit closer without having to get the camera body too close as well. So again, if you're using those on a tripod, then it might be the way to look at heading. Another thing which is lens related, so we'll go into the other bits and pieces of equipment that I use in a moment, is this. Now this is something that is an extra magnifier. So this is something by a company called Raynox, and this is the Raynox 250. And with this, I always struggle with this bit. This screws together into there. Get in. And clips onto the front of your lens. So that actually has got a magnifying lens. They call this an ultra macro lens. So you squeeze those 2 bits in there, it'll fit on the front of pretty much any lens up to this diameter, which is about, does it say what diameter? Let me have a look. I can't actually read anything on there. Oh yeah, 40 something. God, my eyes are getting worse. Yeah, so it will screw onto the front of up to a 40 something mil. So I think it's 46 mil or 49 it might be actually, my apologies. So yeah, that just clips onto the front of your lens and increases the magnification that you get through the lens that you're using. So that I have got an image of an incredibly tiny spiderling Adansonii house spider that was taken using this macro. Shush you, it's not about you tonight. No, go away. Somebody wants in. That was taken using this, and the spider itself was 1 mil ish, but I actually managed to get some quite good pictures and quite good definition on it. Cat, please scoodle. What do you mean no? Bugger off. The joys, eh? See, this is the problem of indoor photography and indoor videography. Okay, when you're doing macro, enough now. Shush. One thing that I tend to do a lot of with it is flash photography to give good lighting. Now, lighting can be done in various ways, but I find the flash is the way to do it generally, particularly for the insect kind of things. So we tend to use then, this is a speed light, simple speed light, little newer speed light, this particular one. This sits on top of the camera, and then on the top of this one I've got a diffuser. This diffuser is made by a friend of mine, Lee Hall, And if you want to have a look at some more interesting and creative macro photography, Lee's got some fantastic videos at the moment. Like all of us photographers at the moment, we're kind of stuck indoors, and Lee does some wonderful stuff. But this will sit on top of your camera, and then when you take your shot, job done. Or something which I purchased recently to go with this were some flash triggers. So with a flash trigger, you get a sender unit and a receiver unit, or two as it is in that pack. So that's the receiver unit, which sits underneath your flash. It goes into the top there in the hot shoe, and then the bottom of this particular one has got a fitting which will go into the foot of that particular flash, or it can go into a tripod if you wanted to use the flash almost like a softbox. So you've got an elevated shot. So we've used those a few times. And then in that you have the sender unit, which goes onto the top of your camera, and they talk to each other when your camera takes the shot or when your shutter goes off. This sends a signal to your flash and you get flash on your subject. The advantage of that, you can do different angles of your shot, so you're not doing a direct head-on flash. You can be from the side to get different lighting. Again, part of that comes down to the creative side of what you're doing with your shot. So on to lighting, and other things that you can do with lighting and use. These are some of the little bits and pieces of gadgets now that I've bought, and I'm going to be brutally honest, most of it's come online, and the majority of it, barring two things, have come from Temu. Some cheap stuff on there, but it's useful. This is a little reading light, so it would normally clip onto the top of a book or something like that. It's got two lights in it, and these, I'm going to turn them away to start with, are super bright. They've got two settings, so that's with one on. Now if we put two on there, and then we can put the second one on there, those are brilliant. Now you could clip that above your subject. I'm waiting for a backdrop to come through to me from Temu actually, with a rail. So I could clip this on the top of the rail with the backdrop. You've got that behind it. It's going to give a really good effect. So those were, I don't know, probably pennies. But yeah, just something different. Other light, or another light that I bought, as I mentioned earlier, I do things with scorpions. So some of you will already know that scorpions under black light fluoresce. So I went onto Temu looking for black lights. I got a little tiny black light torch, but it was only a spot thing. And I found this. It was a 2-pack and it cost me about £3 for the two of them. And what you've got, it's a movable arm which creates quite a good spot or area of UV black light. You can see that there. So there's what are there, seven UV or 7 LEDs that give out black light. There's multiple settings on it, so that's at full power. There's a slightly lower power. It goes onto a flash one, which I wouldn't use really, and then you get a little torch in the end of it. So if you wanted to just highlight a particular spot, great little thing. Haven't actually used that in practice yet, but I did use it for checking the notes that were coming through the till in the shop the other day, but that's a different story. So that's that. I'll get some, I think I've got some fluorescent pictures of scorpions that I can put up as well, show you what that does. I then bought this. This is a clamp set. So opens quite wide and you can clamp it onto whatever you want to clamp it onto. The reason for this are these. So you've got these little arms, you get 2 clamps in the pack and 3 arms for each one, and they're fully adjustable. So this is for things like accessories. If you've got a branch that you want to hold into your picture, you pop that into the end of your curvy brain, and you've got a little crocodile clip on the end, so you can put your branch into it, and that's rotatable as well. So you can move your branch and your angle of your branch. It can be holding a piece of card. It could be holding, if you watch Lee's photography, or Lee's YouTube videos rather, I'll put some links in the description to his channel. He uses holographic paper on photos with water droplets on flowers and then on seeds. I'll come on to that sort of thing in a minute. But you could use that to hold your holographic paper in place to where you want it to be. Again, Temu job, peanuts. I can't even remember. 3-4 quid. So that's another little accessory. And then this is one of the ones that wasn't a Temu job. This is an Amazon job, but it's actually a laboratory platform available in multiple sizes. This was a 10 centimeter square, and you can pop that on your table. Got lovely little rubber feet, so it's nice and stable. If the table that you're using isn't quite high enough and you need more height for your subject, pop that on it and you can raise that. Raises to about 6-8 inches above the table. So, you know, I mean, that's there at full extension. So that's quite a good size lift off your table. The other thing, it's got a metallic top, which, as you probably tell, because looking at the reflection in the camera, is reflective. So that will also bounce your flash around and bounce your lights around to give you some different effects in your photography. Not going to screw that all the way back down because it's just going to take forever. The other thing I tend to use a lot of when I'm doing simple subjects like the jumping spiders, the scorpions, are these. It's an A4 reflective piece of card, or vinyl. They come in double-sided. This one at the moment has been used an awful lot. The other side's still covered. So there's a few scratches and marks on this side, so I probably wouldn't use that again because those little tiny scratches and marks can get magnified when you use your flash or when you put your lighting on it, use your subject on it. So, but these again, they're from Amazon. I'll be honest, Lee gave me 3 of these. I think I've had off him now. But you can buy them off Amazon. They're in packs of 5 or 10. They cost around about £1 each. So that's a great little backdrop, and it's so reflective as well that when you get the position right with your subject sitting on there, you can get the mirror image of your subject underneath into that. The final thing that I've just recently bought was this. Again, it's another Temu thing. Cost me, again, probably £2 or something like that. USB rechargeable little spray bottle. And what it does, you put water into the top here, and it puts a very, very fine fog or very, very fine mist. So fine that as I'm talking through it, I'm actually moving it around. Now that can put, again, another creative element into your photography. If you've got a little scorpion or spider or frog or anything, I took a baby Amazon tree boa to Warsaw Photography Society a couple of weeks ago, and we had a fogger machine, and the snake sat on some what we call spider wood, very thin, delicate vines, and the fog around it was just fantastic. There was some brilliant shots that people got from that. I've got a couple of my shots which I'll put into this video now, and we'll see what you think of those. So that's something that can create another element. The other thing that can do, and the other thing which I'm going to be trying to do over the next few weeks, it's Christmas and New Year, so obviously family things come first, but I will be trying to do some bits and pieces as well in the time where I've not got anything else to do. I've got in the shop some stunning Phalaenopsis orchids at the minute. I want to get some really nice macro shots of their flowers. Again, it will be things like with flash, without flash, with different lighting in different areas, with some of the water droplets on it, with some of the fog around it. So it's going to be something I'm really having a play with. And working with something like those Phalaenopsis, I'll be able to do that from a tripod. Now, when you're doing something which is a pretty stable subject and you're working on a tripod, what you can do with your camera is to use an inbuilt timer. So I usually use like a 2-second timer, and that then allows you to press the shutter, and the shutter will activate 2 seconds after you've pressed it. That stops any camera shake from you pressing it on the tripod. But yeah, so that's something that's coming up in the next few. As I say, Lee does lots of water droplet photography, so again, this is something I'm just kind of stealing from him. He might charge me eventually, but we'll see. So that's a little bit on my macro setups. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, and hopefully it's given you some ideas to go out there and do some, or go in there and do some stuff yourself. We do have various things in the shop which are suitable for macro photography. If you wanted to pop in and have a look, maybe grab some jumping spiders or mantis, or even some of the flowers. That would be nice. It'd be good to get some extra business off the back of this as well. But also in the meantime as well, if you can share this video out, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and do, as I say, all the usual YouTube jazz. That'd be wonderful. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I hope it's been useful and you've enjoyed it. Waffled on a little bit longer than I planned, but then this is kind of waffling without the wandering video tonight. So there we go. Right, that's me done for now. I'll see you in the next one, and I'm going to go and batter the cat for interrupting the video. I'm not, I'm joking. She's a pain, but I love her. Thanks, guys. Good night, and have a fantastic Christmas and a happy New Year. Cheers, folks.